started looking into quite recently, and it has, in its foundation, it has a basic understanding that there is this only one single thing that connects us all around the world, regardless of who we are, and that is that we are human. It's plain and simple. We are all human, regardless of the culture we are from, what demographic, how much money we are earning. That's the only thing that can be connecting us all around the world. And the main aspect of what makes us really human is our mind. It did move, Phil. Digital is not always good. Now it's just my presentation is a little bit moved. So this quote describes it for me perfectly. This is one of the books that I consider pretty much the best book ever, whether it's business, whether it's personal development, whatever you want it for. And it's basically about All Blacks strategy. And the All Blacks is a New Zealand rugby team, if anyone doesn't know that. This quote describes it perfectly. Regardless of what it is, whether it's rugby, whether it's business, whether it's your personal life, mind is really where everything is happening. Some actually argue there's no reality, there's only what is happening in our mind. But let's not go that far. But this is the only thing that connects us. Now, to actually make sense of it all, how actually the human mind works, what is that is common across us all as human beings? And it's the fact we have no control over what we're doing. Basically, we are entirely subconscious. This is a statistic actually crunched up by a number of psychologists fairly recently, about 10 to 15 years ago. As you can see, 11 million bits of information per second subconsciously, but we can barely manage 40 bits on a conscious level. That's, for example, why you are not able to hold a phone number in your memory for much too long. Yet, everything that's happening around you is affecting you. It's basically making you think in a certain way, feel in a certain way, decide in a certain way. And that statistic also means that pretty much all of our decisions are purely subconscious. We have no control over them. And actually, any decisions that we think are conscious, that we made rationally and via the calculated pros and cons method, are actually still influenced by the subconscious. Because what is available to our consciousness is only what our subconsciousness allows it to have. So you can't really say that we have any control whatsoever over what is happening. And it's actually, in a sense, quite good, because this is an actual evolutionary adaptation for us, in a sense that you are, thanks to the subconscious mind, you are able to breathe, you are able to run away from a tiger or a car, in this sense, you are able to fall in love as well. All those things happen without you knowing, and then you sort of post-rationalize what actually happened. Now, senses are actually our gateway to our brain. And that's why I'm a little bit obsessed about them. But nothing would actually go into our brain. There would be no bits of information in our subconsciousness if it wasn't for the senses, because this is the only way through which perception works. Probably some of you are wondering, what is this thing at the bottom? It did move. Sorry, I'm a little bit freak about things being in the right way, and you will probably understand later on why. So this is not the official version of the presentation. So the thing that is at the bottom, which is the bodily sensations, it's another sense that a lot of people haven't thought we actually had, or they have not considered that it's influencing us in our behavior. And it's basically the fact that your brain is also picking up how your body is reacting to the environment. So things like, the floor, the seating you're sitting on, and so on. So as an example of a study, those are actually a couple of studies looking at the soft sitting and how it affects brand personality perception, but also how it affects the communication between people. And the first study actually looked at how soft or hard sitting within an actual retail environment is going to affect the perception of the brand personality. So it's basically just so someone, if you guys don't know, we as human beings assign precisely the same characteristics to the brand as we do assign to the human beings. We treat a brand as a human being. That's how our mental model of a brand is built inside. We don't see a brand as a logo, we don't see it as a store. It's a holistic entity of a human being in our head. That's why we assign it human characteristics. So, in this study, they've actually inputted soft or hard sittings within the retail environment, and then they got people to fill in a brand personality questionnaire, which has been created, officially published in '97, and pretty much used across the world for tons of different brands. I use it totally with my clients all the time, and it's brilliant. And basically, they did that while they were sitting on those seats, but also while they were just seeing them, and the results were precisely the same. So when a soft sitting was there, whether they were sitting or just seeing it, the brand was treated as more relaxed, more friendly, more approachable. However, when the sitting was hard, it was treated as more rugged, rough, but also more dependable. So ask yourself a question: what is it you want your customers to see and feel about your brand? However, also, it does affect how people are communicating between each other. So another study was done actually in the sort of car sales environments, and they got people to sit in soft or hard sitting, and again, on soft sitting, it was actually people were being persuaded much faster. You didn't have to work that hard to make them to buy. And basically the negotiator had a much easier job. Sounds crazy, but we work like that. Okay, lighting. Okay, sorry. So lighting is very important. That's why I've asked a question to Liz, and I do absolutely feel that their windows have an amazing spot on lighting. Lighting is going to have a lot of different influences. You can attract people's attention and make them willing to buy something just because you directed the light over there. But what's amazing about this study is they actually just looked at how dim or bright the lighting is. And basically what they managed to find out is within dim lighting, we do feel that we are a little bit more more desire that. We don't feel as self-conscious as we do in a bright lighting, like I do feel right now. So we kind of instilling a little bit less self-control. We're having a little bit more fun with what we're doing. We're allowing our desires to go wild a little bit. That's why luxury stores and bars have dim lighting, right? To make you drink more, to make you behave in a bad way, and to make you more impulsive, i.e. this study. Actually, it does lead to more impulsive behavior, more impulsive purchases, not things that you necessarily need. Of course, you can use it, but just need to ask yourself a question whether it works for your brand and the type of relationship you're creating with your customer. Now, scent. A lot of people love this percentages. You're probably thinking 2% increase would be great, 5 maybe, whoa, lovely. Almost 140. And this is study done on, again, real retail environment. Sorry, my throat gets dry when I talk. Real retail environment, and what they've done is they first pre-tested a lot of different scents, and they chose the one that people rated as most feminine and most masculine, and then they've input it into an actual women's wear and menswear store. And of course, what they've done in a gender congruent version, the feminine scent was in a women's wear store and the masculine scent was in a menswear store. And incongruent was in reverse. So in the congruent version, you had those types of jumps in the dwell time and spending. Nothing else was changed in those environments. It was precisely the same as it was always there. There was no other things being inputted. That's basically how scientific studies are done. And on top of that, it was statistically controlled. Any other influences of other environmental stimuli was controlled via statistics in that study. And then what they also found out is that in the environments where it was incongruent with regards to the gender of the product and the gender of the scent, that the sales and the dwell time either did not change or actually fell. So it might sound very simple to introduce the scent into a store, but ask yourself a question whether you, your team, or even the experts that you're asking to do that, do they know enough? And are you able to make the decision yourself well enough and not have those either negative effects, but actually work towards those positive? That move a lot. Okay, music. Music is, of course, very important. Probably a lot of you seen the Marks and Spencer's decisions to remove the music from their stores, which I'm not going to comment on here. It is on Sky News. That's good enough. Thank you for that. But basically, this study is quite old. It's one of the sort of first few studies, although a lot of the sort of environmental psychology research was done from about 60s, 70s, and a lot of American supermarkets especially are using a lot of those tricks, as some people would call them. But this study was done again in an actual retail environment, wine store, and what they've done is they've inputted either French or German music, and they looked at how it impacted the sales in French of German wines. Not much boost on the German ones, but on the French, yes. But you have to bear in mind it was 97 when they published it, so they were doing their actual research about 95. At that time, wine was French. That was simultaneously, connected. Any other wine from any other place was not wine, it was cheap nothing, grape juice, basically. So it was the associations that we at that time had with wine. So that also played a role. But as you can see, 76% increase just because they played French music. Again, that same idea of congruency. It's amazing how it works. Temperature. So temperature, as you can see, we do tend to spend a little bit more when it's warmer. And yes, in retail environments, you usually have around 21 degrees Celsius. Those studies were done on 24, 25 degrees Celsius, and those were the jumps in willingness to pay and in purchase of socially conforming products. It's sort of the associations that we have with warm temperature. We feel more socially conforming when we in the warm temperature. We feel more personal also. We feel closer to people. We don't feel as sort of self-conscious. So it's the same as dim lighting. So if you kind of combine the two, imagine the expenditure on that. It will be lovely. Now, never do that. Never shop while you're hungry. Fortunately, I'm not going shopping right now because I would probably burst my bank account. But this study, again, done on real customers in a real shopping mall. I think it was in Canada, as far as I remember. And as you can see, the lovely star, it wasn't food shopping. So what they've done is they sort of grabbed a lot of different customers that were shopping in a shopping mall at the time. They've checked how hungry they were, and so on and so on. Other sort of emotional states, blah, 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 blah. When they ate, when they didn't have any snack and stuff like that. And then they looked at their actual shopping receipts. And then they counted the numbers. So it wasn't like, some crazy experiment in some laboratory. It was what actually people did. 64% more money. And guess on what did they spend it? No one? On fashion and electronics. Crazy, right? We're hungry physically, yet we spend more money on something that cannot give us satisfaction with regards to food. But we do that. That's how our brain interestingly works. And those are just some examples of those studies that show us that we are purely subconscious and we don't really necessarily have that control over, but also that show us how those things can be utilized within the retail environment, or to be honest, any environment. Office as well, you can influence your employees very well by doing that. You can instill consistently the brand message by just having the right sort of stimuli within the environment. Works brilliantly. There is a number of other things that bring us all together, and it's that our brain is a little bit lazy. Like, evolutionary-wise, we do not like to spend too much effort on anything, because that basically means an actual energy. In a cave era, we didn't really have much food, so we had to actually make sure that we don't spend too much of a physical energy on things that aren't necessary for our survival. And that includes shopping. So we basically, the less cognitive effort we can get within any kind of decisions that we ask our customers to make, the better. And one of the elements that help us to not spend as much of a cognitive effort, or your customers actually, is the trust that they have in your brand. It's the fact that trust is it's on the same level as security and certainty, which I'm pretty sure everyone can use right now after the happenings in our lovely politics, right? And those are those elements. So if you think about things that basically make your customers spend less, so that simplicity aspect was mentioned already. Don't make them work hard for things. Don't make them try to figure it out. Like, for example, someone asked about digital. A lot of digital stuff are put just because everyone else is doing digital. But are they actually making it easier and better and more pleasant and more experiential for people? Or are they forcing people to actually figure out how they need to use it? And unfortunately, when you do go to a lot of those digital things, it's try to figure out how you use it. And it's not only the retailer's fault, it's actually the designers of the tech. So there's a lot of people at the moment that are trying to look at tech, how actually intuitively our brain works, and therefore how we need to design tech. So we're not forcing people to move in a different way, to behave in a different way that their brain is naturally wired to do. Now, but what is really, really, really the only thing that makes us, the first most important thing that makes us trust? And I honestly believe it's consistency. That's why I was a little bit annoyed that my slides moved, because they weren't consistent, they weren't harmonious as well. Consistency is also the harmony and the symmetry. So for example, when you look at a number of studies about human attraction, the symmetry in someone's face is the number one thing that people are looking for. These are the most beautiful faces, those that have the most symmetry. That's why they look so much better when you actually Photoshop them, because they've done to have a little bit more symmetry. But when you actually would do research on that, it's that the people that we consider the most beautiful, they might not necessarily fit into a particular age, era of beauty, of what we consider beautiful at the time. But the fact that they have that symmetry is still going to work. Again, evolutionary adaptation, pure and simple. And actually that consistency will then lead into trust. And I mean consistency in a subconscious meaning that you are projecting for every single stimuli that you have that is actually working for your brand. Whether it's store design, whether it's social media, whether it's your logo, whether it's the behavior of people, or even the look that they have, their personality characteristics, and so on and so on. All of those things are projecting certain subconscious meanings to the brains of your customers. And if you do not have a consistency in between those meanings, you're not going to have the trust, and you're not going to have that long-term customer value. So of course, if you want to get them to spend £5 more on that particular shopping trip, just tweak the lighting, put some music on, maybe introduce some scent, and then get someone to make some noise additionally around a particular display. Great. But will they come back to you? Probably not. You have to bear also in mind that customers are extremely wise at the moment, and they know when you're trying to trick them. They know a lot of those things that I've already told you. They know that you're trying to make them spend. So the question is, do you actually want to just consistency and trust and a long-term customer value, or do you just want a £5 more? So decide on that. And that's why I truly, truly, truly believe that is that understanding of a human being, of how we actually work, what really connects us all, regardless of where we come from, that that is going to create the most effective retail spaces, the most effective brands, the most effective anything. It's another quote from the book Legacy. It's an old Maori proverb, and I truly believe in what it basically says, and this is how I generally work. Is that that understanding, that the true knowledge about someone and something. That's why I love psychology, basically. And if you just look at how human beings are done and make it as a fundamental aspect of your decisions, then basically they will be very easy. They will be simple. There's not going to be 500 questions. It's going to be, does it work with the basic elements of how we are built as human beings? If it doesn't, if it makes someone to spend more effort, if it makes someone confused in any way, if it doesn't attract them in any way on an actual physical level, if it doesn't, build some kind of attraction, love, or anything like that, if it doesn't evoke certain emotions that you want to evoke, it's not going to work. It's as simple as that. So some of you already did pick up copies, but there are some more copies at the front if you want. And it's a short version of our report, which has a little bit, more information around that. And then the long version is available to buy on our website, which has more of those studies with case studies of various companies that done it well for the particular senses, and also the potential applications of it. So if you do want to pick it up or download it, or if you have any questions, come and speak to me afterwards. Thank you.
For any questions. As usual, I'm going to start with a question. The Twitter feed seems to, maybe it's malfunctioning, I don't know, maybe I've got a load of technophobes, but Kate, you're a psychologist.
Yes, I am.
So I never thought I'd say these words at a Popai
Don't
conference, but it's time for some role play. Yes, absolutely. I've been thinking about this question for the last 20 minutes. So,
That long?
okay. So it's a Friday afternoon.
Yes.
You're in your office, and that office you're working for a supplier of temporary POP. You've got lots of different clients, and the inbox goes bing, and it's one of your main FMCG clients. They've got a proposal they want from you. They've just had landed on their desk some NPD from the brand side, and they're tearing their hair out because they've not got much time to get a series of displays into the big 4 supermarkets. So they sit in there.
Like a normal
this
day.
is good. It's going somewhere. They sit down and they think, oh, I know. I remember a presentation from Kate Nightingale at the Popai seminar. I guess the question is, how do they translate that into something that's going out into store and it needs to happen yesterday? So what are the key takeouts in everyday retail, in mainstream FMCG supermarket branding?
Okay. First of all, simplicity. Don't try to overdo it in any way whatsoever.
Like my question.
That's a very good example, actually. Yes. Then the second part, especially in supermarkets, you have a rows of nothing. That's how it basically looks like. There's no attraction in any way whatsoever. And the one part of that cognitive effort, and that basically this is a cognitive overwhelmment as soon as you walk into a supermarket, is that you have to search, you have to expense an effort to actually go and find a product. Make it easy for them. Show it to them, whether it's an additional banner, whether it's a different product packaging design, which would be great if someone did that finally. But some of the brands that actually try to do it, then you do notice it instantly. And then you stop thinking. You know that you, let's say, in a shampoo aisle, and you are looking for something that suits you. Let's face it, people don't choose things that have particular features that are going to make their hair smoother or longer or whatever else. They choose it based on the fit to their own identity and personality. If your packaging is not designed to that, then you're not going to attract the type of customer that you want, right? So it's that actual attention. They will be looking only for things that are consistent and congruent with who they are. So simplicity, and make sure that it's sort of designed for them, that it attracts their attention. Those are probably the two main things.
Simplicity, that'd be a wonderful thing. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to ask for any questions for Kate. We've got quite a long lunch break, so there'll be lots of opportunities to grab Kate during the break. But I'm going to ask for our second presentation of this session, which also involves a bit of jiggery pokery switching between machines, which thankfully I'm not going to do. So Tom, you could help us out there. Kate, thank you very much.